4. The story about the elder nun Patacara. Etadagan bhikkhave mamasavikanan bhikkhuninan vinayadaranan yadidan Patacara. This is the foremost of my nun disciples monastics amongst those who bear the discipline in mind, that is to say, Patacara. The commentarial story. In the fourth story, amongst those who bear the discipline in mind, that is to say, Patacara, it shows why the elder nun Patacara, amongst those who bore the discipline in mind, was said to be foremost. Her aspiration and good deeds. At the time of the Buddha Padamutara, it seems, she was conceived in a good family home in Hamsawati, and later, while listening to the teacher teach the Dhamma, she saw the teacher place a certain nun as being foremost amongst those who bore the discipline in mind, did a great deed, and aspired for that position herself. She did good deeds for the rest of her life and was reborn amongst gods and humans only. In the time of the Buddha Kassapa, she was conceived in the home of Kiki, the king of Kasi, and was one of 7 sisters. She lived as a celibate for 20,000 years, had a residence made for the community of monks, and was reborn once again in the world of the gods. She enjoyed good fortune during one period when there was no Buddha. Her last life. When this Gautama Buddha arose, she was conceived in a merchant's home in Savatthi. Later, when she was mature, she became intimate with a certain worker in her own home. And as she was going to someone from a family of her own standing, she informed the man that she had been intimate with, saying, "From tomorrow, even if you beat on the door 100 times, you will not be able to see me. If this is a worthy deed for you, take me right now and let us go." Saying, "So be it," he grabbed the most valuable and suitable things, took her from the city, retired for 3 or 4 leagues, and set up home in one village. Then later, an embryo was established in her womb. When her fetus was mature, she said, "Husband, we are without protection in this place. Let us go to my family's home." He said, "Today let us go, and tomorrow let us go," and being unable to decide when to go, he let the time pass by. She understood his reasoning, and thinking, "This fool will not take me," therefore, when he had gone outside, thinking, "I will go to my family home by myself," she set out on the path. He returned, and not seeing her in the home, he asked the neighbors, and hearing she is going to her family home, he thought, "It is because of me that this daughter of a good family is without protection." And he followed in her steps and caught up with her. As she was on the highway, she was delivered of her child. Then thinking, "That thing for which we set out has happened right here on the highway. Having gone there now, what would we do?" And they turned back. And again an embryo was established in her womb, and everything happened just as the first time. But as she was delivering on the highway, at the very moment of birth, a great storm arose in all 4 quarters. She said to the gentleman, "Husband, an out-of-season storm has arisen in all 4 quarters. Please endeavour to make a wooden shelter." He said, "I will do so," and he made a little hut with sticks and said, "I will go and bring grass to thatch it." And he cut the grass near the foot of a certain great ant-hill. Then a black snake that was lying in the ant-hill bit him on the foot, and through that he fell down dead on the spot. She, however, spent the whole night thinking, now he will come, now he will come, and said, certainly he is thinking, she is helpless, and he will have abandoned me on the road and gone away. The light appeared while she was searching for him by following his footsteps, and seeing he had fallen at the foot of an ant-hill, she lamented, because of me this man perished. She took her young boy on her side, and made the elder one grasp her fingers, and while going along the road, she saw a certain shallow river across the highway and realized, I will not be able to go over in one go with both the boys. So she placed the eldest on the near shore, and carried the youngest to the far shore, lay him down on a cloth pillow, crossed back again, and entered the river, thinking, I will go and fetch the other child. Then at the time she reached the middle of the river, one hawk, thinking, this is a piece of meat, came to peck at the youngest child. She waved her hand to drive the hawk off. Having seen the gesture of her hand, the eldest child, thinking she is summoning me, descended into the river, fell into the stream, and was borne away with the current. The hawk, before she could reach him, grabbed the youngest child and bore him away. Overcome with great grief, she went along the highway wailing this mournful song. Both my sons have died, and my husband is dead on the path. She reached Savatthi wailing like this, went to the good family's district, and through grief was unable to find her own home, and asked, in this place there is such and such a family, but where is the house? They answered, having inquired about that family, what will you do? The home they dwelt in fell down owing to being hit by the wind, and right there and then all of them reached the end of their lives. Now they are all, young and old, burning on a funeral pyre. Look, you can make out the rising smoke. When she heard this, she said, what did you say? Being unable to bear being clothed in her robe, just as when she was born, stretching out her arms and crying, she went to her relative's funeral pyre and filled out her mournful song, lamenting, both my sons have died, and my husband is dead on the path. Mother, father, and brothers too burn upon the funeral pyre. Though she was given a cloth by other people, each time she tore it off and threw it away. Then everywhere she went, the populace walked surrounding her and said, this cloth wanderer wanders without a cloth for protection. And they made the name Patacara. Because she became famous for shamelessly wandering around with nothing on, therefore they said, her good conduct has fallen away, and they made the name Patacara. One day, as the teacher was teaching Dhamma to the populace, she entered the monastery and stood at the edge of the assembly. The teacher, having suffused her with a suffusion of loving-kindness, said, regain your mindfulness, sister. Regain your mindfulness, sister. Having heard the teacher's word, she regained a strong sense of modesty and shame, and she sat down on the ground right there. A gentleman who was standing not far away threw her an upper robe. She dressed herself and listened to the Dhamma. The teacher, on account of her, spoke this verse found in the Dhammapada. Not in children is there refuge, nor in father or in kin. For one attacked by the end-maker, there is no refuge in relatives. Having understood the consequences, the wise one who protects his virtue quickly purifies the path that leads to Nibbana. At the conclusion of that verse, as she stood there, she was established in stream entry, and having approached and worshipped the teacher, she asked for the going forth. The teacher said to her, "Go to the nunnery and go forth," and he allowed her going forth. One day she took water in her water pot, and pouring it while washing her feet, it went but a little way and stopped. She poured it a second time, and it went a little further. She poured it a third time, and it went even further than that. Having taken that as a meditation object, and defining the 3 ages of life, she thought, like the first pouring of the water by me, some of these beings die in the first age of life. Those who go further than that, like the second time I poured out the water, die in middle age. Those who go further than that, like the third time I poured out the water, surely die in the last age of life. The teacher, sitting radiant in the perfumed cottage, appeared as though standing and speaking with her face to face, saying, "Thus, Patacara, better than not seeing the rise and fall of the 5 constituents of mind and body while living for 100 years, is seeing rise and fall for even a day or for even a moment." And after making the connection, teaching Dhamma, he spoke this verse: "He who lives for 100 years not seeing rise and fall is surpassed by one living one day, seeing rise and fall." At the conclusion of the teaching, Patacara attained liberation together with the analytic knowledges. Not long after her going forth and her attainment to liberation, grasping the Buddha's words, she became one who had mastered the basket of discipline. Later, while sitting in Jeta's wood, in placing the nuns successively in their different positions, he placed Patacara in the foremost position of those who bore the discipline in mind.